All right, peeps, check it out. Got murder on today. He's kind of, got bad signal. It's still good, but bad. He's driving out over the road. Well, not murder, it's Chris, whatever. But Chris is out running over the road, and, we're going to talk about some things, how they used to be, and then how they are now when it comes to driving. But first, we're going to start off with talking about a bladeless ceiling fan that he had brought up to me before, at the beginning of the week, I think it was, and I thought it was pretty kind of cool. So, figure we'll talk about the fan, and then we got some other stuff we're going to talk about, and then we'll start talking about trucks. Alright, so here it is. This is called the Exhale fans. They're bladeless. They have no blades whatsoever in them. And apparently, this is the 4th generation of the fan. So there's been others before this one, which I think cool, but I've never heard of them before. And then when Chris brought it up to me with this, I thought, oh, well, let's take a look at this. And I was looking through, and as you guys can see, it's just right here. It's at exhalefans.com. And, they're showing them in different rooms, but that's it, right at the very top of the ceiling up there with a light on it. And for guys who get excited while they're playing video games and they jump up and the ceiling fan's on, they don't get their hands chopped off or their head chopped off.
Get whacked in the head with a blade.
And you got this big cut. How did that happen? I was in the war. Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But as you can see, the fan itself is pretty simplistic, but it almost reminds me of how Dyson does their fans. Their bladeless fans that they have. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
And
I was looking at this thing. I kept thinking, there's got to be blades in there somewhere. Something has to move this air.
Yeah.
So I understand bladeless, external bladeless, but there's still got to be blades in there somewhere.
Well, I'm pretty sure the blades are the internals. Versus the external, I think is what they were really going for when they were talking about being bladeless.
Yeah.
But they do use a vortex technology, which means it's a cyclone type technology that either you're running one way and it blows air out the top and sucks air in from the bottom, or it runs the opposite direction and sucks air from the top and blows air down. One of the things that I would have to say this has an advantage over other ceiling fans is the simple compact design of it. Excuse me. The compact design, I mean, it's very small. It's not... Ooh, hell. The belches. I mean, let's see here. Where was the size of this damn thing? I mean, it wasn't big at all. I think it was on this little thing here.
The Exhale fan?
Yeah, the actual fan itself. It has a little thing up here that tells you how big. Okay, 34 inches wide and 7 1/4 inches tall. I mean, that's 7 1/4 inches tall is probably something about like this big. This tall. It's not very tall at all. And as far as 34, I mean, if you got a 32-inch monitor, it's roughly about that size.
Well, it's about the size of most standard ceiling fans. I mean, you get about 32 to 34-inch ceiling fans. So.
Oh, mine are bigger. Sorry.
I mean, you can get bigger ones like 48, 52s or whatever.
I got 52.
But I mean, not all of us are, living in a shop somewhere that needs these big giant shop fans on the ceiling.
I don't either. I need a shop fan. Holy crap! I'm a fat boy, man. I need my air. Shit.
But yeah, it's about the same size as a standard ceiling fan, that you'd find in an apartment complex or something.
Yeah. And it also, you think about it too, this is probably going to, like they say, they do use less energy than most, or pretty much any other ceiling fan. Because the other ceiling fans aren't designed for energy efficiency as far as the motor itself. I mean, yes, the motor probably uses less energy now than it did 10, 15 years ago, but, it's still got a motor in it. It still has a startup. It still, when it starts up, it takes a little bit of power to get that thing started, and then you got more from, where I should say it's less once it does after it gets started. You have your start up, and then after your start up, it goes back down, but still. These here probably are quieter, substantially quieter. I mean, it does have an LED in it. I like that. It just, I don't think it puts out enough light in a broad area versus just LED straight down. Now, it does state here that it's the world's first and only eco-friendly bladeless fan with a dimmable LED light, and it says it balances the room's temperature wall to wall and floor to ceiling. I mean, as far as luxury, never before seen luxury, whatever. But energy saving in the ceiling fan industry. I mean, with the way that power bills are going these days, yeah, I could see having something that's going to cut down on your bill and using it. It does state here that you could save 23 to 38% on your air conditioning system operations, meaning that it's going to run less because this is pushing out more air, which is cooling your house off even more. Or heating it up more if you're using a heater instead of the AC. It is nice because you can use it on low ceilings. You don't have to worry about walking in a room and ducking under a ceiling fan. I mean, I used to have to do that in my grandfather's trailer when we had a single wide, and I was about probably 16 years old, and I had to duck because the ceiling fan was that low. I mean, I wasn't very tall. I was like 5'10", 5'9", and I had to duck. My grandfather was short. It didn't bother him or my grandmother. They could walk around all they wanted. I'm the one that had to keep ducking to get through the damn house. So, I mean, I could see where this would work in low ceiling applications. My thing is, would you buy one of these, Murder, and put it in your home and try it for, say, 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay. So, trying it and...
Actually, me and the wife actually, because I sent it to her too, actually talked about possibly getting one or two, one for the living room, one for the dining room. Those are the two biggest rooms in the house. I'd probably go with one first, go with the living room first. People are in there more often, and see how it works. If it really works that well at keeping the air circulated in the entire room. Whereas, a normal ceiling fan, the air just kind of goes down from under the blade.
Yeah.
Then possibly buying the second one for the dining room. But I think so. We talked seriously about considering putting at least one.
Oh, you're breaking up again, Murder. Sorry, man. So, peeps, Murder is out driving, and so he keeps hitting these little spots where he's not getting good signal.
Yeah, shitty signals.
Yeah, it's alright, though. I mean, you know, I can see where, you know, putting one in your living room, one in your dining room, that could really cool off the whole house. Now, what about, like, say, if they... I think they should offer a smaller one for bedrooms. You know, only because your bedrooms aren't as big as your living rooms or your dining rooms or things like that. So for bedrooms, I would say, yeah, use a smaller one in your bedroom. So, I mean, why can't they just make it a little bit smaller? I think eventually they might, but right now you've only got this one style with a few colors to choose from. I think only 2 colors you can choose from. And eventually, coming in summer of 2018, you will be able to connect your smartphone to it via Bluetooth. So you could use Android or Apple devices for it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at this gallery right here. Okay, so they're using them in a gym over here, you know, over the tops of here, trying to cool everything off. I mean, you can see they're about 6 to 8 feet, maybe a little bit more. That's probably 4, 8, 10 feet. Probably got 10 feet from each other. They got them. Hold on 1 second, peeps. Alright, I'm back. Did we stop a murder? Might have lost a murder. He'll be back. Anyway, as you can see, you know, they're using them in here in restaurants instead of using those ceiling fans. I think it looks a little bit more attractive using these versus ceiling fans in a restaurant. And as far as cleaning them, I think because they don't have the external blades on them, you don't have to worry about dust coming off of them and getting onto your food and things of the sort. That's one of the problems I've always had about going into places that have ceiling fans in them. Is, I mean, come on, people. You got ceiling fans. You probably don't even clean them as often as you should. My personal opinion. I thought I heard a murder.
Yep.
Okay, there he is. But, you know, like you were saying, you know, using them both in the living room and in the dining room, you could really cool them off. But, like, using one for a bedroom, I would say that they need to make it just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, they don't make a smaller option. I didn't get a chance to see the whole site.
I didn't see them. I didn't see smaller options.
Yeah, they should make smaller ones.
Yeah, I mean, they only had just the one. And it's, right now, you're looking at $500.
Little pricey compared to normal ceiling fan.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the base color. Right now, base color is white. That's all they have. Accent ring, white. Choose your options, cool white or warm white. So you got daylight or yellow light, basically. I would go with a cool white because I think that puts out more light than anything else. They will be shipping out in August. So, I mean, just next month they're going to start shipping these fans out. So I mean, it's not that far off. It does have an LCD screen remote. Really?
I think it said somewhere there's a phone app you can do too.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. And then you kind of went bye-bye. But yeah, it does. You can use the phone app to connect to it via Bluetooth. And they say that's supposed to be coming out in summer of 2018. So obviously it's going to be coming out with this next shipment of fans. Now, you could use either your Android or your Apple device. And so that's good that you could use either one. It kind of really piss, somebody off if you're sitting there playing with it on your phone and they got the remote and they're trying to turn it on and then you turn it off and they turn it on and you turn it off. Piss somebody off doing
that. I do that to my wife with the Amazon Firebox.
Oh shit!
She'll be watching something. And I'll be in the other room.
Yeah.
You can use your phone as a remote.
Oh.
And I'll pause it on her.
You're so mean.
And it'll take her a second, because usually the first time she's like, "Oh, what happened?" So she'll unpause it, and then I'll go and change the channel completely, and she'll be like, that's about the time she'll catch it, be like, "What are you doing?" I didn't do anything. I don't know, you're going crazy.
Yeah, that's what I do to Searchy. I do that for her too. So,
you're imagining stuff.
Yeah, I know. I tell her that all the time. Sometimes she believes me. But as far as the fan is concerned, I personally would probably buy one just to try it out. And if I didn't like it, obviously I would be like, look, no. Here, take your fan back, give me my money, and we'll call it good.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of having something small, and not with as many blades. Like I was saying before, if you have this in a restaurant, I was showing them some pictures. If you have it in the restaurant and you're not worrying about that fan blade having dust on it and them never cleaning it properly and dust getting on your food.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of it being small as far as height-wise. Only because, like I said before, you jump up out of your seat because you just want a game or something, and you ain't got to worry about cutting your hands or your head off. What would be some of the features that you would like to see within this fan?
LED lighting built around the outside of the housing instead of the LED in the middle. So
like in the ring area?
Yeah, but bright enough that it would actually provide light, and then maybe possibly give an upgrade option to multicolored LED lighting, so you can almost like mood lighting. You could just kind of change the color.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I could see. I would like to have the outer ring have the brighter light and everything, but for a night light option for the center would be something nice to have. For the kids in their room and stuff. You got a little night light in the top of it, so that they, it's just enough, but it's not too bright, and you can turn it off and turn it on. And I mean that would be a good option, I think.
Nice.
I would like to see the ability to have an ionizer in it. That way kind of, I mean, that would add to, the cost of running it. But, I mean, for cleaner air, the ionizers really do work very well. But the only problem would be is cleaning it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you still have to have some way to take it out and wipe off the
collection. Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and I get that. It's just that, I mean, I would like to see something like that, though. I mean, hell, I mean, that would be, to me, that would be very valuable, especially for family members who have, like, a lot of allergies and stuff. Having that ionizer does help get rid of some of those allergens that are, you know, preventing people from just being comfortable in the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, if they can figure out a way to kind of do that, I know I'm not an expert when it comes to that, but I mean, you know, the cleaning part would be the hardest part, I think. I would like to know how you clean the inside of that thing. Because, like you said before, there's got to be some sort of a fan blade inside of it pushing that air around. So, I mean, I really would like to see is if it does have a true vortex abilities, is putting it on as high as you can get it, and seeing how much air you can get circulating in a house before it starts turning into a damn tornado. I would do it too. I would do it just to see if I could. I'd put papers all laying around, just loose leaf paper laying all over the place, and then flip that thing on as fast as I could get it, see how much wind could get going in a vortex situation in the house. Have the kids
That would be pretty funny.
Having the kids hanging on to furniture as they're getting pulled up into the damn thing. Turn it down, Dad. What? I can't hear you. Turn it up. Turn it up. All right. I would do it too.
Add a mist of water. Hurricane.
Wait, we forgot hail.
Well, that's all the other stuff flying around the room.
We throw some ice cubes in the air.
You just throw some crushed ice up in there or something?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Hail coming in on them. Oh, I would have a lot of fun with that. So, me and you, had discussed a little bit ago, you know, right before the show, a little bit ago, meaning that with this next thing we were talking about was the EU going after Google for fines over their Android phones and apps and stuff of the sort. Now, last year, they were ordered to pay a fine of $2.8 billion in an antitrust case, meaning that they can't be trusted to do what they're supposed to do, apparently. Well, now they're trying to say that Android is dominating the EU and AdSense and Google Shopping and all that. They're dominating the EU, so nobody else has the options but other to just go to them for everything. And the Android phone with all of the apps, which happen to be Google apps. Well, it's their phone. They're going to have apps on it. Or their system, I should say. They're going to have apps on it. But they also give you a bunch of other apps that aren't even theirs. And so,
you can develop your own apps for it.
And you know what's funny is when it comes to apps, you know, depending on the type of app you want, some are very, very simple that you just go to a certain website and you can make an app and right on the website and then download the code for that app, and then you can give it to your friends and then they download this onto their phone. They have the same app that you have apps, you know, depending on the type of app, like a messenger app. Those are the most simplest apps there is out there is the messenger app. And I thought Apple was one that the tyrant on apps. That in itself yes, I would say Apple is a tyrant when it does come to its apps. Whereas Google, you know, you can make an Android app very, very easy and put it out there as a free app and not have to pay the hundreds of dollars to put it on the Play Store like Apple charges you to do. I do think you still have to pay a certain amount, but it's not hundreds of dollars like Apple is. But what we were seeing here is that the EU is stating that Google is not giving anybody an option on apps and shopping and phones, and Google's not giving you that option. And Android is your only go-to. Now, I know I personally think that's a bunch of bullshit. There are many, many avenues you can go to in excess of what Android puts out there. And you don't have to pay for them. They're free apps. And I'm sure
the Google Play Store is full of free apps.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's more free apps in the Google Play Store than there are paid apps. And a lot of your paid apps, the only difference between that paid app and the one that is a free app is, and if it's the same app, is you don't have ads on the
yeah, you just
paid
pay to
one.
remove the ads from them.
Yeah, and that's it. And most of the times, I'm going to say 90% of the times, those ads, it's not a big deal. You click the X on it, it goes away, and you keep using the app. Or if you only use the app every once in a while, well, guess what? You're only every once in a while hitting the X. I don't want to see the app or the ad. I just want to use my app, and then go and use it and be done.
Yeah.
But they're saying that this particular incident now, and there's 3 incidences they're saying this time, and the 3 are Google Shopping, AdSense, and the Android's dominance in the market of smartphones. I only know of 2 systems that phones run on: Apple's and Android.
BlackBerry has their own operating system.
Well, BlackBerry, but BlackBerry's kind of obsolete.
They're not dead. They're still out there.
Oh, I know they're still out there, but that's what I'm saying. They're just obsolete. It's not that they're gone.
Yeah, they've actually started making newer phones for BlackBerries. They've gotten rid of the physical keyboard on the bottom half of the phone and made them full touchscreen phones.
Oh, okay. So they're kind of following the trend of all the other smartphones then.
Yeah, they're still out there. They're still active. They're not dying, but they're more.
And there goes the robot. Hold on, Berto, you're robot, bro. Berto needs to go charge his batteries. He's a little bit on the drain side.
Type are not really average consumer. Can you hear me?
I can now. You were roboting so bad on that one. You sound like a robot. You sound like a robot with his batteries draining.
Fucking Arkansas. Anybody lives in Arkansas, y'all suck. You can't even be original enough to come up with your own state name. You stole someone else's.
Kansas.
Arkansas. It's the assault rifle version of Kansas.
Ooh, really?
They should be Arkansas.
Yes, I know, Searchy. There you go again, murder. Kansas is trying to kill murder. They're Arkansas. So until murder gets back, basically, you know, you have all these different options. He's almost back. He's almost back. But you do have all these different options. And in the EU, you have all these options as well. But it's the people selling it that have where they're using either Apple or Android, you know, in the Googles. I mean, that in itself is not their fault. That's the fault of the person selling it. So you can't really blame it on, you just can't blame it on one company. Now, they are saying here that in the Washington Post, this, I am not going to pronounce that name because I'm going to butcher it. It's the EU's antitrust czar. So, and I'm sorry, but you can't sit there and say that Google and Android are dominating. That's not their fault. People keep buying it. So, I mean, you can't really blame that on Google. You can't blame them being more dominant over somebody else. You just can't do that. It's the people have the option to buy what they want to buy. Now, over in the EU, I know that from friends that I have that live over there, they charge an exorbitant amount of taxes on things. And if Google and Android put out a cheaper product, then these people are not paying as much in taxes as, say, somebody who buys an iPhone or buys a BlackBerry or buys a Kindle. Searchy said Kindle on here. I don't think Kindle has a phone, do they? Searchy?
They also still have Windows phones.
Windows phones are garbage.
But they're still out there.
I know they're still out there. They're still garbage. Hell with Microsoft's phones.
Just adding to the point that it's not a monopoly. The whole thing's bullshit. If you don't like Android, you don't like Google, you don't want their apps, then don't use it. Go pay more money and use Apple. Go to BlackBerry and be out of date. Go to Windows and have all sorts of problems with your phone. Or create your own damn OS.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, we say create your own OS. Well, guess what? There are courses out there that will teach you how to do it. You just got to get up and go do it.
Yeah, go create the EU OS if you want to. You can just keep it all letters. Just make one big long acronym.
Yeah, there you go. Now, Searchy said that Kindle had the Fire phone. I'm not sure if that's up and running still either, Searchy, but they do use data through AT&T, which is a cell phone carrier. So technically, I could say Kindle is dominating the book market for reading books. If you want to go that far as saying Google is dominating with their smartphones, and Kindle's dominating, it's putting libraries out of business. I mean, come the hell on. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
If I was in charge of Google, who owns Android, just to prove a point to everybody in the EU, I would say, okay, I'm not going to pay your fine, but here's what I'll do to make you happy. You no longer have to use Android in the EU. And I would take every phone, because you know they can track where phones are, what version they are, what country you're in. I would take every Android phone running in the EU and shut off the OS. Just end it.
Yeah. There you go. That'd take care of it, right?
And then watch everybody bitch and complain, what the hell happened to my phone, blah, 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 this and that. I'm so pissed off. Hey, go talk to your government. They thought that we were monopolizing you guys over there and not giving you a choice. Now you have a choice. Go somewhere else. And
well, actually, they don't have a choice then, because you're taking away their choice, the choice that they chose, Google, Android. You know what I'm saying?
Their other choices would be shit phones with Windows, or expensive, the same thing they had before, but just pay more money to Apple, or not have one. So the point being, let the people go to the government and be like, look, stop.
Yeah. Now,
stop pissing off Android. Let us have our phones back. Leave it alone.
Now, it says here that the person who was talking about these charges and stuff like that said when the charges were first announced against Google, they said, a competitive mobile internet sector is increasingly important for consumers and businesses in Europe. We believe that Google's behavior denies consumers a wider choice of mobile apps and services and stands in the way of innovation by other players in breach of the EU antitrust rules. Now, they said, we believe. Yeah. They didn't say Google is. They just said they believe. So it's their perception of what's actually happening.
What I don't understand is how Google is standing in the way of competition. They're not telling anybody. They're not like knocking on some programmer's door saying, hey, I'm going to break your fingers if you don't stop programming that new OS. We're the boss here. They're not buying out little companies that try to start up OSs just so that there can't be any competition. They're not forcing anybody out. The problem is you don't have anybody creating new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Searchy says emotions, not facts. So they're basing on their emotion of what it is. And, you probably have, I'm going to say, and just for numbers, say 50% of the people don't want to use an Apple iPhone. So that 50% that don't want to use it now have a choice to make. They can go to a Windows phone, like you said. They can go to an Android phone. They could go with the BlackBerry phone. Or they could just stick with a landline using their internet service provider and be done with it. And the only way you get a hold of them is if they're at home. If they're out and about, you might as well just leave them a message. They'll get back to you as soon as they can. That's basically what's going to happen. Now, you can't say that the behavior of Google is making it so nobody else has a choice. Or here they say a wider choice of mobile apps. A wider choice. Well, you know what?
That's something else I was going to ask is how they think Google is restricting mobile apps to their country's consumers.
Well, that was one of the things that Brussels, and in the next paragraph down, they talk about Brussels accusing the company of leveraging its Android's operating system to maintain position of power when it came to internet searches, which means that they were requiring phone makers to pre-install Google browsers and search apps in order to access the popular apps and the Google Play Store. Now, Google is also accused of offering financial incentives to manufacturers who agreed to pre-install Google Search on their handsets. So what they're saying is that Google gave money to these people to put their product on their phone. Just like if I was to have an operating system or my internet browser and I wanted it to be, used more, and I say, well, I'm going to offer you $100,000 to put my my app on there. Yeah, it's exactly like that, Sergi. But if I wanted them to put my app on there and I'm going to give them $100,000, I'm making an investment for my success. If somebody wants to compete with me, they need to put up $120,000 for theirs to be number one. Now, if I own the phone and I was making my own phones and I had my own operating system, then there would be no problem. But I don't. And just like Google doesn't own their own phone brand. It's everybody else's phone brands that is being developed with Android. So like I said,
Google doesn't have a phone.
You broke up. What'd you say?
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You're still roboting, bro. By the way, peeps, this is, as you can see right there, this is on Digital Trends. This is their website, and this particular article was written by...
There we go. Now can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Try to see who this article was written by.
Well, I was saying a minute ago, Google has made their own phone.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, though, is, okay, there are other manufacturers out there who just create phones.
Oh, yeah.
And it's an Android phone. Now, Google is giving them money because it's their phone, not Google's phone. They're not going to put their operating systems and all that stuff on there for free. Where is the money in it at? You know what I'm saying? Yes, you're going to buy the phone from these people as a consumer, but what about those other people? It's like product placement in movies. You're going to pay somebody to have your product in a movie be shown.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And they're saying that they're giving financial incentives. No, they're paying a bill to have their stuff put on a phone. Just like if the iPhone was being developed by somebody in India, okay? And it's a phone company that has nothing to do with Apple. But Apple wants their operating system or wants their browser or wants something on that phone. They're going to pay for it. It's not an incentive. It's a bill. You're paying a bill to have something done. That's what this is. And it's basically the EU isn't happy with this because they feel they're being taken advantage of. My opinion, but that's what it sounds like it is. And you don't see anybody outside of the EU say otherwise. You don't have people in India complaining. You don't have people in Africa complaining. You don't have people in Brazil or in South America complaining. You don't have nobody in Canada complaining.
about all the people in Asia?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
They have more population-wise, there's more people in most of the Asian countries than there are in other countries. And Android and Apple both are widely used in those. But yeah, nobody's complaining.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it says here, outside of Apple's iPhone, Google's Android is the dominant operating system in the smartphone market. It's typically unaltered, packaging first-party apps such as Google Maps, Gmail, Google Search, and they say here so on. And it says they're peppered with apps developed internally by smartphone makers. You know what? The smartphone maker made a phone. They're allowed to put their own damn apps on it. You can't say that that's Google's fault.
Let's think about their mindset, their statement right there. And how about, why aren't they suing Apple? Why aren't they finding Apple? Apple makes the phone. Apple has their own operating system. Apple also has their own software in their operating system. Siri, Safari.
Yeah, exactly.
They also allow third-party apps into their Apple store, just like Google does into their Google Play Store. Why aren't you finding Apple? Because they're just as large as Android. With everything they're complaining about with Android, Apple does the same thing.
Yes, they do.
And still just a little worse, because they're proprietary and they charge you for their dev kit. So you got to pay to be able to develop apps on Apple. But nobody is finding Apple. Why?
Well, it's because they're not Google.
What has Google, that's what I'm getting at. What has Google done that the EU is pissed off about? That's what this really comes down to. The EU is pissed at Google about something. And this is the only way they could find to get back at them.
You know, why aren't they going after Windows? Why aren't they going after Microsoft? Because Windows being put on all those computers and all those laptops out there. And
flooded with all sorts of Microsoft programs when you buy them, and flooded with shit that people have paid to be put in there. McAfee comes in almost every computer that you buy on the shelf.
Or Norton.
Either Norton or McAfee. One of the two have paid to be put on those computers. And why aren't you finding them? Because, that's pretty much locking out other competition.
Yes, it is. Look at Linux. Free of charge. Linux is. And there is a comparable Office deal as far as Word and all of that. That's comparable for Linux. It's all you got to do is just go to Linux. It might be a little bit more, it might be a little harder for you to use Linux, but it's free. You don't have to use Windows.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So it really boils down to, yes, the EU does have a beef with Google, and this is the only way they know how to take it out on them, is nitpicking something and making it worse than it really is.
And maybe somewhere in all the legal mumbo jumbo, whatever, maybe there's something that we as the public don't know that's giving them a legit reason to find them. If not, I'm hoping and I'm certain Google's lawyers, being paid as much as they are paid, are smart enough to do like we've done and throw in there, why isn't anybody else getting fined? Because you're finding us for the same shit that everybody else does.
Oh,
Apple,
yeah, definitely.
Microsoft, they're all doing the same thing, but we're getting fined and they're not.
Now here,
so either there's something we're not being told as the public, or Google's just going to lay there and take it. I hope not.
Oh, I hope not either. I hope that it boils down to, you know what? You guys came after us. Now you're going to pay my lawyers.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay all these court costs because you had a beef with me and it wasn't even legit.
Yeah.
And it's probably what it boils down to is somebody got their panties in a wad, and it was probably some app on their phone at this EU place where the people are suing them. It probably an app over there that they were trying to use. They didn't like it because it wasn't operating the way they wanted it to, and now they're going to take it out on Android and Google because of that one app.
Or somebody somewhat a tenth important over there tried to develop an app and submit it to Google, and Google said, no, it won't. We're not going to put it on there because somehow it violates their terms or doesn't function with their operating system. Told them, go fix your app. They got pissed off, and now they want to fine them. Yeah, something along those lines. Like you were saying, like I was saying, somebody over there got pissy because their app didn't work or their app got turned down. And they want to, oh, well, you're holding us back.
Yeah. Now, here in the next couple of paragraphs, I'm going to read them off here as it's written here. It says, device makers have attempted to offer smartphones with altered or forked versions on Android. Amazon made such an attempt with its failed Fire phone in 2014, which was a 3D-enabled phone powered by a modified version of Android the company calls Fire OS. It's the same platform Amazon uses for its Kindle Fire branded tablets, Fire TV, Echo, Echo Dot, and more. Meanwhile, Samsung's use of Tizen initially seemed the end of Android on its smartphones, but the company still uses Google operating system on its Galaxy devices. Now, that said, there is no real alternative to Android. Moreover, Google commands 90% of the European search market and provides revenue-sharing payments to smartphone makers who pre-install Google Search. Individuals siding with the European Commission claim the company provides strong incentives too, leaving smartphone makers unable to promote alternatives to Google's apps. Anything distributed outside Google Play could be considered untrustworthy by users. Now, let's see this next one. Yeah, the next one says that's because Android's app-related problem spans years. In the early days, smartphone makers were altering Android to distinguish their products from those of competitors. Meanwhile, third-party app stores not governed by Google or device manufacturers lured in device owners. The resulting malware epidemic seemingly pushed customers to prefer pure Android builds and Google Play apps. The only exception is Amazon's Android App Store, which still must be side-loaded on Android devices. Okay. How is that Android's fault? How is that Google's fault?
Well, yeah, it's not.
Third-party apps maliciously being used and people downloading them from third-party sites and not knowing that these, the third-party site's not actually checking to see if these are malware, not checking to see if these are just apps to go on your phone and steal your information. Google Play Store at least checks your app to make sure that it can be used on their system without interfering with anything else. So it's not like It's not like you can't just go to a third-party site and download them. You can do it all you want. You as a customer has that ability. You as a customer also has the ability to go to Apple or BlackBerry or what was the other one? What's that other phone?
Windows.
Company out there? Windows, yeah, or Windows. You have that option as a consumer. So you can't blame Google for an issue that was created by malicious people. If it wasn't for those malicious people, you would have third-party sites that would have a lot more apps on them for people to be able to use. It's cut clean and dry there. There's no jargon that you can put into that to make it other than just it's not their fault. You can't say that it's their fault for other people.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the pre-installed stuff, download something else. I mean, that's cut clean and dry. Murder, what do you download? I know we talked about it. You download something that changes your UI.
Well, part of what we were talking about before the show was you said they were complaining about apps that change the look of the phone, change the UI, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, I use a launcher, Go launcher. It changes the UI of the standard Android operating system.
You're starting to break up. When he gets back, we'll have him go back over that. But there's a app. It's called Zedge. It has. Okay. Yes. Later. Okay. Zedge has all kinds of different things that you can download, all the way to the icons, which is part of your UI, your notifications. They have little widgets, which is a beta right now for them. They have games that you can put on your phone. They have keyboards, so you can change the way your keyboard, wallpapers, ringtones. They have all of this on their app, and it's a free app. You don't even have to pay for it. And then you can get all this other stuff for free as well. How is that not a decent compromise to, oh, I don't like this on my phone, so I'm going to go and try this other stuff and see if I can find something that's more customizable for me on my phone? That is, I think, the biggest problem, is that people can't get out of their own damn way and look at something and say, okay, you know what? I can make this my own. People do it all the time with their Windows. People do it all the time with Windows. They put a different backdrop on it. They change the Windows 10 button to act more like the Windows 7 button when you bring up the start menu. Almost everybody goes back to the Windows 7 way of doing things. And there are third-party apps that you can download and get those things to be however you want. You can't blame Google. You can't blame Android. Just like you can't blame Apple. Granted, Murder and I, or Chris and I, don't like Apple. But yet you can't blame them for the way they set their phones up. Because you can always turn around and change it. You just have to take a little bit of initiative to do it. Excuse me. So, anyway, while we're waiting on Murder to get back, It says here, seemingly to keep the pure theme intact, Google pushes smartphone makers to install the Chrome browser and other first-party apps if Google Play is present. But smartphone makers still have an option to install their own stores and apps, such as the Galaxy App Store, Galaxy Class Smart on their Galaxy Class smartphones, and obviously Google isn't completely banned third-party apps from Android. But the EU Commission still seems to think that some type of regulation is in order. All they're doing is trying to choke out Google. Like we said before, there's a reason they're trying to do this. They don't like Google. For some god-awful reason, they've got to bug up their rear ends, and they're going against Google for this. I really hope Google wins this and then gets a revert back. Because who's that $2.8 billion going to anyway? It's going to the EU Commission. It's not going to the people who bought those phones. Because you have the option to take the damn phone and not buy the damn thing. Go get an Apple phone. Go get a Windows phone. Go get a BlackBerry. Go get a Kindle. You have the options. And to say you don't means that you've already made up your mind and you don't want an option. You have options to do whatever you want. Now, if you do it or not, it's a totally different thing. Now, we're getting to the end of this here. It says, at the same time, the EU, or the European Commission, sources claim that it can't simply order Google to change its Android business under European law. If anything, the Commission can slap Google with a fine and make suggestions. Stop enforcing first-party app installation. Stop paying device makers for installing Google Search. Will that make a difference in the overall Android picture? Probably not. Android is utterly dominant, which is CCS Insights Jeff Blabber. Whatever. He told Reuters. Whatever the ruling, manufacturers are heavily reliant on Android, so nothing is going to change dramatically. That's basically what it boils down to. They can't force them. They can only suggest to them, because Google's not doing anything wrong. Google has done nothing wrong. It's that simple. And when Murder gets back, he'll say probably the exact same thing. And as you can see, there's, oh, well, right here, Apple versus Pepper. The Supreme Court could rule that the App Store is a monopoly. Look at this shit. Seriously. I mean, these are some of the things. Like here, the EU Commission prepares to assess Apple's acquisition of Shazam. Let's see here. Amazon Echo versus the new Echo versus the Echo Plus. Which should you get? We can talk about that another day. I say none of them. But yeah, I mean, the EU is going after Google for something stupid. I mean, it is. It's really, really stupid. It's ignorant. It's petty. I mean, if the EU was so broke, why don't they just go ask for a loan instead of trying to sue companies to help pay for their houses and to pay for their fancy cars? That's just my conspiracy on that part of it, just so you guys know. I think that's what the money goes to, is it goes to the commission. The commission then divvies it amongst themselves, going, yay, we won! Oh, we're rich now. We're not poor anymore. Now, this was written by Lulu Chang, Kevin Parrish, and Christian D. Looper. That's who this was written by, peeps. So it wasn't me and it wasn't Chris. But anyway, as soon as Murder gets back, like I said, he's out on the road. As you all know, Chris is doing Chris Murder, same guy by the way. He's out driving trucks, making his living, paying his bills, doing the real life thing. Now, he's got his own channel, and most of you that are watching this know that Murder has his own channel, and he has changed it to Cruisin' Nation. And he does stream actually while he's driving down the road. He's got little deals set up so you can see where he's going and, you know, see all the neat little sights. In fact, he was just streaming the other day, and he was going through St. Louis, and you could actually see the arch and everything as he was going through St. Louis. So yeah, it was pretty nice, you know, with what he's got going on. Now, the last part of the show, we were actually going to talk about how the trucking industry has progressed from what it used to be, especially when I was driving, up until now. But
when
Murder.
You were driving,
Hold on.
Still had dinosaurs.
I know. I was whipping the shit out of frickin' Littlefoot. Come on, Littlefoot, let's go! I was telling people that when you read further down, they were saying that Google commands 90% of the European search market and provides revenue-sharing payments to the smartphone makers who pre-install the Google search, and individuals siding with the European Commission claim that the company provides strong incentives, leaving the smartphone makers unable to promote alternatives to Google apps. And anything distributed outside of Google Play could be considered untrustworthy by users. And later it says here that the European Commission sources claim that it can't simply order Google to change its Android business under European law. It says, if anything, the Commission can slap Google with a fine and make suggestions like stop enforcing first-party app installation, stop paying device makers for installing Google Search. And then they say, will this make a difference overall for the Android picture? Probably not. And it says, whatever the ruling, manufacturers are heavily reliant on Android, so nothing is going to make a change dramatically. And
yeah, if they're going to slap Google with fines, they need to slap everybody else.
Damn it, Murder.
Fines too.
Yeah, you were breaking up, bud. But like I was saying, Chris, it says here, Apple versus Pepper. The Supreme Court could rule that the App Store is a monopoly. And like I was saying to other people, you downloaded an app that allowed you to change your UI. I downloaded Zedge, and I use Zedge to change up my phone to do whatever I want with it. Granted, I just changed the background to it, and change some of the ringtones around. But you could do that with third-party apps and not have to worry about using standard stuff. You know, you have the ability to change the way you do things. So, you there, Murder? Yeah, Murder, like I said, he's in a bad spot right now in Arkansas. So, we'll just keep going on with the show for right now. like I said, the next part of the show we were going to talk about is how the trucking industry has changed from back when I was driving until just recently. Technology in trucking has come a long way since the 1930s. And anybody who has any family members in trucking, you guys know that the only thing that is constant when it comes to trucking is they're away from home for quite a bit of time to help pay for the bills at home. Excuse me. So they are many families who don't have a mom or a dad at home, because one or the other is driving truck over the road, and it's hard on the family. It really is hard on the family, and that's one of the things that has been constant when it comes to trucking. You're driving over the road until present day, it's all the same when it comes to that. Now, the technologies behind it have changed. Trucks have become more efficient with fuel via the use of computerized fuel delivery systems, emissions protocols that they put into place for these engines, communication with the truck from the office. You're not stopping at a payphone to call dispatch. Monitoring the trucks and their position, where they're at, so that a trucking company can show the customer, hey, this is where your product's at. Your product's here at this time. This is where it was at. And through the Qualcomm systems, and the Qualcomm system is developed by Qualcomm, the company. It's a satellite system, GPS system. It's got a messaging system in it, all in one, so that the driver can communicate with dispatch or the main company, and the main company can, relay messages back to them. When I was driving truck, the Qualcomm systems were huge as far as the size of them. I mean, we're talking something that was like 18 inches wide by, say, 15 inches tall. I mean, it was a huge box, about 3 inches thick, with a cord on it, and it goes into your truck, then underneath your truck, and then back up and into a box that was bigger than my it was 4,500 watt power inverter. And that's a big ass damn power inverter. This damn thing was bigger than that, and it put out some serious heat in excess of what your truck already puts into it through the stacks and stuff. But then it would go up the backside of your truck into a little satellite box on top. Well, when I say little, I mean something probably about almost 30 inches in diameter. And now I've seen them. They're probably only about 12 inches around now, that's set right on top of your truck. More compact, obviously, because of technology these days. It made things a little bit smaller. Trucks now are automatic. Not all of them still, but a good majority of them are automatic. So you have these automatic trucks out there, and it takes away from the driver shifting the gears to actually the truck shifting its own gears, and giving the driver more focus on steering and paying attention to everything out on the road, so that he's not taking his hand off the wheel every time he has to upshift or downshift. It's automatically done for him. Now, I personally don't agree with it, but that's because I like my manual transmissions, and I'm an old truck driver. Not to say that it's a horrible thing, because there are some drivers out there who can't drive a stick shift to save their damn lives, And they eat up so many transmissions. They eat up so many clutches because they don't know how to shift. It's pretty much that simple. And so this opens the market up for people who can't drive stick shifts or manual transmissions to driving automatic vehicles. Gives them that option to be over-the-road truck driver and drive with the big boys with their little trucks. I mean, Swift is doing it. CR England is doing it. A lot of your major, I should say a lot, most of your major companies are using automatic trucks nowadays. And with the Clean Air Acts that they have, especially in California, a lot of these trucks go through some rigorous testing to make sure that they are compliant with EPA standards. Because back in the day, like I had a mechanical fuel pump. I could just adjust it just a little bit, and I could be blowing black smoke for miles if I wanted to. But I never did, but I could if I wanted to. Well, nowadays, all this is done by computers, so you don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. Like I said, Murder right now, he's in an automatic. He's driving it down the road. He likes it. And that's what floats his boat. So be it. I can't tell him he's wrong, because that would be me pushing my view on him of how things are supposed to be. We don't do that here. But logs used to be paper logs. Used to be this book you had to write down and draw lines and mark off, okay, I was at this place at this time. You know, and on the time it was a 24-hour clock at the bottom, and you would just mark in 15-minute increments of where you were. That's what it was broken up into. And you could say, okay, at 12:15 I was at this place, and then I went off duty, and now I came back on duty, you know, and driving, and you go over here and say, okay, I did that at this time. So you can actually show time off, time driving, time on, but not driving. So you had the ability to break all this down. And what the hell was that?
You said duty.
I said duty. So anyway, the hold on one second, peeps. Murder, can you talk to them about what you feel about truck driving as it's been from when it started to now? I gotta take care of something real quick.
Alrighty. When Grimm started, it was pretty much still wheelbarrows. Really, I mean, it wasn't really called trucking; it was just called wheelbarrowing. And it was like the Flintstone car, and they had to pedal it with their feet. Now, when Grimm started, it was paper logs. I think he was just talking about the different duty statuses on the log sheets. Off duty, on duty, driving, and then on duty, not driving. They actually have a fifth line now. It's off duty driving. If your company decides to give you access to it. When he was doing it, it was all paper logs. It had to be done on paper. They're carbon copied. Slip a piece of carbon paper between the white one and the yellow one. Mark where you were. You had to write down where you were every time you stopped. Everything on the log sheets was done in 15-minute increments, though. So everything now is electronic logs. It monitors down to the second. What we see on the Qualcomm is actually to the minute. Anyway, it saves a whole lot of time. You stop somewhere for 10 minutes on paper logs. If you stop somewhere and step out and pee, right? You take 5 or 10 minutes. Well, you had to mark 15 minutes, so you've lost 5 minutes, or 10 minutes if it only took you 5. With the electronic ones now, it's to the minute. If it took me 5 minutes to get out and pee and get back in, then it was only 5 minutes. I didn't lose the extra 10. But it also makes it a lot easier. If I stop somewhere, I'll pull into a truck stop and I stop. I get out the fuel. Right? I'm not driving, but I'm still on duty because I'm having a fuel. I don't have to do anything with the Qualcomm, with the computer system. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes after the truck's not moving. It automatically switches you over to on duty. Now it takes say 3 minutes, I think. The 3 minutes that it took to decide that you're no longer driving and you're on duty, it takes that and puts it into your on duty status. So once the wheels, it marks the time that your wheels stop rolling. And I think Grim's back, but it takes the time that your wheels stop rolling and marks them. So then after the 3 minutes elapse, then it goes back to the point that your wheels stopped, and it puts that 3 minutes in with your own duty time if you're fueling, whatever. Once I get back in the truck and start moving again, I don't have to do anything. The wheels start rolling. This company has it set up to
hey Ed, how you doing, bud?
7/10 of a mile. So if the truck detects that it's moved 7/10 of a mile, it automatically puts you in the driving status. So it's all done automatically. The only thing you have to do is if you stop for get something to eat or stop to pee or something, then you put yourself off duty. But I was telling them that when you started, it wasn't called trucking; it was called wheelbarrowing.
Yes, it was.
Because they were still pushing things around in a wagon and a wheelbarrow. And I was telling them when you were driving and when I first started, they were just introducing electronic logs. My company that I started with actually gave you the option: do you want electronic logs in your truck or do you want paper? And that's what I was telling them when you were driving. When you first started, it was all paper logs. Everything was paper logs, 2 copies, white page, yellow page. You slip a piece of carbon paper in between the 2 of them, and you mark everywhere you stop. You write down the city you stopped in or the city you started in, and when you did your pre-trip, when you did your fuel, and you had to do all this with pen and paper. And DOT, if they wanted to see your logs, you handled them the paper log book, and they go over your log, make sure you're legit and everything.
And they only go back 7 days on your logs. They couldn't go back any further than that.
Yeah, well, it's 8 days now.
Oh, it's 8 days now? Wow.
It's you have an 8 day with your 72 hours. What you get back at midnight was 8 days ago.
I gotcha.
But so pretty much you go back. You were talking about they go back 7 days on your log. Your 8th day would fall off at midnight and come back to you, back to your time, back to your 72 hours. That's a whole another show altogether because that could take over an hour to try to explain.
Oh yeah, trucking is
how to explain the hours of service and how they work. And
oh yeah,
I was also telling him you were talking about the different duty statuses, like off duty, on duty, driving, and on duty not driving.
Yeah,
there's actually a line. There's actually a line 5 with the electronic logs. It's off-duty driving.
How in the hell does that happen?
If I'm an owner-operator and I have my own truck and I'm at home and it's like, oh, hey, I need to go put a bunch of shit in the truck, or I need to move the truck.
Yeah, I got you. Okay,
I need to be able to drive without messing up my 34-hour reset. Which I use a lot for if I'm going to go put stuff in the truck. Sure, I could go drive my car to Walmart, load up all the shit I want, come back home, take it out of the car, put it in the truck, or I can just drive my truck to Walmart, load all the shit that I buy right into the truck, not have to transfer it again, and then just drive the truck back home. Well, that's off-duty driving.
So what happened to the whole 50-mile radius, not having to log your trips if you're in a 50-mile radius of your your home. They changed that now?
Yeah, there's no mileage thing anymore. Everything's done on a timetable.
Well, shit.
So
fire.
you're 72 hours. Now, you still have your 72-hour on-duty clock, which is your total time in the entire week that you're allowed to drive.
Yeah, see, and it was 70 hours when I was driving.
Yeah, 72 hours that you have, which actually, speaking of, I have an hour and 4 minutes left on my 72-hour clock, and I get nothing back at midnight, which means tomorrow, where I'm about to stop in 3.2 miles, tomorrow I'm not moving because I have no time left. None.
Until the next day. Until the next day, and you get actually hours back.
And then, yeah, because I did a 34-hour reset, set all my clocks back to zero. I've used up my 72 hours before the week was out. And, yeah, now tomorrow I'm having to sit all day and not do shit. But at midnight tomorrow night, or Sunday morning, however you want to look at it, I get hours back. I'll get 11 hours and 40 some odd minutes. So I get my whole day back.
Yeah.
That's for anybody who knows about trucking. Scorpio, if he's watching, I know he drove. It'd be like, oh my God, you used up your whole clock. Yep, that's partially my fault because what I was talking about earlier with I was telling them earlier, with the paper logs before, everything was 15-minute increments. So if you stop to pee or stop to get something to eat, and it only took you, say, 10 minutes, well, you've lost 5 minutes because you got to mark it in 15-minute increments. That's all that's on the paper.
Or if it only took you less than 7 minutes, you didn't have to log it.
Yeah, you fuck all that. Electronic logs are down to the minute. So if it took you 10 minutes to go pee or get something to eat and come back, you didn't lose 5 minutes. You only lost the 10 minutes it took.
Yeah.
But here's where what I was talking about, where I screwed up, comes in. You are allowed to, if your company allows you to. If your owner operator, doesn't matter, you own it. That's between you and your company, whether you're allowed to leave that load and be quote unquote off duty. With this company, owner operator, company driver, either one, they allow you to be off duty and no longer responsible for that load. So if you stop somewhere for 10 minutes to get something to eat, this is where I screwed up. I wasn't going off duty. I was letting the truck do it on its own, put me on duty till I got back, started driving, and go back driving. So
yeah.
I've got a lot of 10-minute, 12-minute, 20-minute, not quite my 30-minute break that's required now, of stops that I didn't think to put myself off duty, so I've lost all those hours. When I woke up this morning, I only had 5 hours and 15 minutes on my clock. I was actually able to go back and change some of those little short stops to off duty and gave myself a little over 7 hours for today.
Nice.
Which I only have an hour and 1 minute left. Let's see, where's my stop? Here it is. Stopping at the Flying J with the Denny's.
Denny's is disgusting. And I liked Flying J, the ones that have the little pizza place in there and that has the Chinese food right next to it. A lot of them don't have it anymore.
Yeah. You don't hardly find those anymore.
Yeah, a lot of them don't care.
A lot of Flying J's will have their own little hot bars up there now. So they'll have their own pizza. They'll have little egg rolls. They'll have the hash brown casserole or corn dogs. In their own little hot bar window.
Yeah.
But back to what I was saying, the times now are tracked. When I started, you were given the option of paper or electronic. So once I got my CDL, when I was in training, my trainer had paper, so I did paper. But once I got my own, they gave you the option of, do you want paper logs or do you want these new electronic logs that we're doing on the Qualcomm? And I went straight into electronic logs. I'm like, you know what? I'm lazy. I don't feel like writing this shit down. You said the truck would do it for me. Give it to me. And to me, No, a lot of drivers, they ran more than one paper log so that they could run longer than they were supposed to and still make it look legal. Now, the reason I word it that way is because they made it look legal when technically they were illegal, and there's 2 trash cans blocking this fuel pump. The hell y'all doing? Now I got to back up and go to another fuel pump. You can't see the trash cans so you get around this truck. Look out, school bus, because I'm backing up. I'm bigger than you. So a lot of them ran more than one paper log, which was fine as long as they didn't get caught. You know, that's their business. That was what is your problem, Bird? Running at my truck with his mouth open.
You probably got bugs on the front of your truck and he's trying to eat them.
I'm sure I get quite a few. My windshield's covered in them too.
They ain't dead.
So, yeah,
they're just got broken legs because your truck don't move fast enough to kill them, so they're just limping around on your windshield.
Oh no, the ones on the windshield are dead. They're splatter spots. But yeah, you get to some of these truck stops. A little off topic, but one thing I think is kind of cool, talking about the bugs and stuff on the truck, you get to some of these truck stops and these little birds, little brown and tan birds, will jump up into your grill, even if the motor's running. They've learned that the trucks aren't dangerous because we're not moving. So even if your motor's running, they will jump up into the grill and pick the bugs out of them. So they have a hot meal.
Nice.
But what I was saying is if they would run more than one paper log, which is fine. It's, you know, their choice. That's too complicated for me. Like I said, I was lazy. I just went straight to electronic logs. So that's what I've always run since I've got my CDL and got out of training in 2009.
Oh shit. That's when I stopped driving.
But I like the electronic logs in the fact that they do save you time for those little short stops where you're not having to log 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
It is automatic. The truck will pick up when you're moving. The truck will pick up when you stop. So when I stop for fuel, I don't have to worry about, I got to save some of my time. I got to go off duty. I'm actually on duty because I'm fueling. So.
Yeah. Well, see, and that was one of the rulings that they did when they did the last change that I was part of was they gave you a 14-hour rule in a 24-hour period. You couldn't work more than 14 hours. And that included, okay, so it included driving and on duty, not driving. It included those 2 lines. Couldn't equal more than 14 hours. So basically, you were allowed to drive 11 hours and then have 3 hours of on duty, not driving.
Yeah. Still the same thing. So once you start your clock, which is usually with the pre-trip in the morning or whenever your 10-hour break is up, usually you're going to start your clock with the pre-trip. You have to be on duty to pre-trip your truck. So that starts your 14-hour clock, and that 14-hour clock does not stop at all. Until you do a 10-hour reset, that clock doesn't stop. You can't stop the 14 hours once it starts. Now, in that 14 hours, like you were saying, is your 11-hour driving time. So you have 11 hours to drive, but if you're sitting at a shipper or receiver for, say, 4 hours, well, now you've got 10 hours to drive because your 14-hour clock is now cut into your 11-hour driving clock. So you've now got 10 hours of driving left. Now they added 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, a mandatory 30-minute break within 8 hours. So when you start your day and you start that 14-hour clock, within 8 hours, you must take a 30-minute off-duty break. You must. So you now have an 8-hour clock, an 11-hour clock, a 14-hour, and a 72. See, you must take a 30-minute break within 8 hours of being on duty, driving or not, or you get dinged with a DOT time violation.
Well, see, and the thing is if you're driving down the road and, you know, say you're in Texas, you're driving straight across Texas, all right? and you're just driving. Why should you have to stop for a half an hour if you're just driving a straight fucking line?
Because I understand that, but I don't like it. I understand what you're saying. I don't like it. But the thing behind it was drivers driving tired, fatigued driving. So they want to make sure you're stopping and taking at least a 30-minute break before you finish out the rest of your trip. Now, I used to sit down. I'd get up in the morning and go pee, get me some food, throw some snacks in, get some drinks, and hit the road and would not stop for 11 hours straight. Wouldn't stop to pee, wouldn't stop to eat, wouldn't stop to stretch my legs. I would do 10 hours and 59 point whatever minutes of straight driving.
I mean, I get why they want people to take breaks. I get that. But a fucking half hour is nothing. A half hour is a drop in a freaking pool. I mean, it's nothing.
Usually, it's not much if you're tired. I mean, if you're tired, go take a nap. At least an hour.
I mean, seriously, if you're going to get to that point, you might as well just take your damn 10 hours off, go to sleep, get up, and start driving again.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, there's schedules you got to keep, so you may not be able to take a whole 10 hours if you haven't been on the road that long. But 30 minutes, usually for me, my 30-minute break is my lunch. So in order to not have to hit a second break within your 11 hours, if you do it after your 3-hour mark, then you won't have to take another one. You only have to take one. So usually I'll do 4 hours of driving when I start. Stop, go off duty, 30 minutes. I go in, get some food, eat my food. That's my lunch break usually. Get back after the 30 minutes, start driving again. You don't have to take another 30-minute break because you only have 11 you can drive.
Yeah.
You're covered. But yeah, they've made it mandatory. You take a 30-minute break, so now you have an 8-hour clock, an 11-hour clock, a 14-hour clock, and a 72-hour clock. You got all these fucking clocks.
I liked truck driving just simplistic. You get out there, you drive from point A to point B, you drop your load off, you go and you drive to point A again to grab another load to take it to point B, and you just do that and be done with it. Like my typical drive for me, and I was an owner-operator. I owned my own business when it came to truck driving. And I would pick up in Umatilla, Florida, or, Fort Drum, Florida, one of the two. And I'd pick up orange juice, or Frostproof. That third one was the newest one. I'd pick up orange juice and drive from here all the way up into New Jersey. Or if I had to, sometimes I went into Massachusetts. And I would deliver to a lot of the grocery distributors, just, 50,000 pounds of orange juice, just fully loaded, bam, go and drop it off. And, well, actually it was 48,000 pounds, but, you drop off the orange juice, and then I'd go pick up ice cream up in Vermont. And then I would go from Vermont and drive it all the way down to Henderson, Nevada. And drop off in Henderson, Nevada, and stay the night there, because I just drop the truck off, back it up to the to the doors, and you don't even have to open it up or nothing. They do everything from the inside. Drop the truck or the trailer off. I would drive my truck and bobtail up to either the truck stop, unless the truck stop was full, and then if it was, I'd go down to into Las Vegas itself, and there's a hotel, or actually it's a motel, whatever you want to call it, there that caters to truck drivers. So there's a spot there you can actually park your truck and trailer there. And I think they charge you like $34 for a night. And they're not bad rooms.
34?
Yeah, $34 for a night.
I sleep in my truck for free.
Yeah, I know, right? But, there was places you could go to, and park and, get out, do things, and then go take a nap and get up the next morning, because I couldn't get anything until the next morning anyway, because one crew would unload the truck, and then they would wait for the midnight crew to come on, and then they would load my truck back up. But they had to pull all the different ice creams and put them onto a pallet, re-shrink wrap them and then load it into the truck. And then I would leave from there and go up into Washington, like Richland or Pasco or places like that where there are a lot of cold storage places for distribution. And I would drop off the ice cream there, and then I'd turn around and head to Walla Walla, or just heading south before you get into Umatilla. Before you get into Umatilla, there's a seed place there in Umatilla. I'd go and pick up, onions or seeds, or I'd pick up the produce was in season, potatoes, and I'd drive all the way down to Miami, Florida, and drop off at the port of Miami. And that would take me a good part of I'd say probably 14 days, because of all the stops I'd have to do.
14 days?
14 days.
Man, y'all were some lightweights back then, man.
No, that wasn't me. That was my delivery times.
14 days.
That was my delivery times.
I'm out, on average, I'm out away from the family at least 4 weeks.
Yeah.
This time, because the way my daughter's birthday is at the end of July, so I'm going home the end of July on the 26th.
Okay.
But me going to orientation, starting with this company, getting the truck and all that stuff, and her birthday, the way it worked out, it's going to be like 5.5 on this one.
Yeah.
But you earn 1 day off. Now, as an owner-operator, technically you can go home anytime you want to. I mean, you don't want to keep going home because you're not going to make money. Grim knows that.
Yep.
But the general rule for company drivers, and most owner-operators go by the same rule for company drivers as far as time off goes, because, I mean, like I said, you don't want to go home too often.
You don't make any money.
Yeah, so usually it's you earn 1 day off. And the reason I explained that other part is because I say you earn 1 day off. As an owner-operator, like I said, you go home whenever you want to. You don't have to earn it. But you get 1 day off for every 6 you drive. So, I'm out for, if I'm out for 4 weeks, that actually comes down to about 5 days.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
But so yeah, usually on average I'm out a month at a time, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I go home 4 or 5 days. This one's gonna be about 5.5 weeks, but I'm gonna be home like an entire week.
I'm plotting out a generalized how long my trip was. Kind of just picking the cities and adding them in. Kind of explain about how many hours
most of mine. I know a lot of people don't have my Facebook. I've been thinking about creating another one just for my streaming community. But usually on my Facebook, I'm posting where I'm going or where I'm at.
Yeah.
But since I've been out, I've been cross country and back already, and half across the country and back. And I've been to Wisconsin twice, which not a lot up there to see. If you're on Scorpio, it's pretty boring up there, man.
Okay,
I don't know how you live up there.
So on average, in 2 weeks, I would do 8,166 miles. That's an average.
In
2
weeks, you would do 8,000 miles.
8,000 miles in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I can see that. That's running illegally, though.
Well,
you're not going to do that many miles in 2 weeks running legally.
Well, if you did your math proper and you actually didn't go straight interstate all the way, yeah, you can. I did a lot of straight driving, not on the interstate. I'll tell you that right now, because I bypass wait stations that way.
Hell, I don't go into weigh stations anyway.
Oh no.
And still don't get 8,000 miles in 2 weeks.
Oh, see, sucks to be you.
You're gonna get more miles. Well, I'm running illegally too. You're gonna get more miles staying on the interstate because you're not having to slow down for towns and different speed limit changes and stop signs and red lights and.
Well, I get you on that. But there are some places where, like in Texas, when you drive Texas, you can drive a back road. You're not seeing anything.
You can drive the interstate in Texas and not see shit.
That's true,
Texas,
too.
New Mexico, Arizona. There's not a lot out there in some of those places. But yeah, so weigh stations nowadays aren't too big of a deal. I've stopped at. I've been called into 2 weigh stations. I would say 2 at the most.
Mm-hmm.
This whole time that I've been out.
Damn.
They have. I'm sure some people have seen them on the interstates where they have the weigh-in motion section. So before you come up to a weigh station, there's a pre-pass, which is also your toll easy pass all in one, mounted on the windshield. It identifies your truck, your DOT number, your truck number. They're actually attached to your license. The company attaches them to your license. So when it gets scanned, the weigh station has access to your DAC report. Most of them, if the company is doing their job, most of them are attached to your load, where you came from, where you're going, how much it weighs. Because we have to put all that in the Qualcomm when we get loaded anyway. So when you come to these sections on the interstate, there's the little sensor above the interstate, above the right-hand lane. It scans that. And 10, 15 feet after that sensor most of them will have a metal plate in the road. You go across it, it's a scale. It's weighing us as we go across at highway speeds. Some of them I don't think work too well because if they're not put in right, then you have a bump as you get to it, so it's not going to read right. And then a little ways down before you get to the weigh station is another sensor. It actually broadcasts a signal to this device mounted on your windshield. The device has lights on it, red lights, green lights. So it's going to tell you, red light, you need to go in. There's something they're not sure about, or they want you to go across their scales at a lot slower pace so they can get an accurate reading. Or your logs don't match up. Something's wrong. Green light, you bypass it. You don't have to stop. Yep, we're good. Everything seems to be in order. Your weight seems fine. You know, there's highway scale work. Most of mine are green lights. I've only had to stop, like I said, 2 weigh stations, and it's usually just a roll across their scale and keep going. 2 out of, I don't know how many weigh stations I've passed. Of course, nowadays, half the weigh stations aren't even open.
Yeah, I noticed that driving just regular POV, you know, there's not a lot of weigh stations that are open, especially during normal business hours. When I was driving truck, normal business hours, they were always open during normal business hours except for holidays. And then there were some of them, like if you went through Louisiana, the one going into Louisiana from the east and heading west, that one was open 24/7 on both sides of the road. But the other ones would, normal business hours. They were just open and closed. Now, a lot of times, I seen people get pulled in, for, like if they were driving through, say, Florida, and Florida has a weight scale in Tampa, and they have a weight scale just up where the Florida Turnpike and I-75 merge. There's a weight scale just above that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you went across one scale and, you went in and they typed in your truck number or your plate number, And if you went through the other weight scale, and as you're going through, they type in your plate number, and they see that, 2 hours ago you were just in Tampa, they're going to pull you in and give you a speeding ticket. Because you were driving faster than the posted speed limit of 70 miles an hour. And see, with the new...
I was going to say, that's one thing that these sensors, when they're scanning, that's another thing they're doing. We don't usually pay too much attention to it because we're not going to be over the speed limit.
I mean, you guys are what, back to 63?
65.
65, really? Okay, well, so they bumped you guys up a little bit.
What do you mean? Hell, they used to be 60. What are you talking about?
Well, they used to be 63. When I quit driving, there were Swift drivers who were like, oh my God, we're at 63 miles an hour now. And if you hit the accelerator and then bump up your cruise control and then take your foot off the accelerator and let the truck go and then bump it up one more time, you can get 64 miles an hour out of the truck. There were guys who were ecstatic about
that. You can feather the pedal now and you get 2 mile an hour boost. So you go from 65 to 67, but it only lasts for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Owner operators, I think the company wants you to be no more than 70.
Yeah. Well, like, my trucks never were above 70. Okay. My company trucks that I owned were never above 70. My truck, on the other hand, I could go as fast as I wanted to. Needless to say, I would go no faster than 90 in my truck. No faster than 90. Any faster than that, you're just asking for it. I've had trucks passing me going through Texas, and I'm doing 90. There used to be a female driver. She ran late night I-10 back and forth from California to Tallahassee, Florida, and back to California again. And you could hear her key up. She goes, "I'm coming through," and you wouldn't even see nothing in your rear or in your mirrors when you were looking back. You'd see nothing, and all of a sudden, coming over the hill, you start seeing these big headlights just coming after you. And she'd catch you and just keep on going. And I'm doing 90. She was going faster than I was. She caught me and passed me. So she had to have been doing over 100 miles an hour easy. And I mean, when she goes by, it wasn't like a... She was like, freight train me. And you know what freight training is. I mean, she just, boom, right past me and just not even think twice. So you know she was cooking.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't go that fast if I was like hauling cattle, because I hauled cattle for a little bit. I would never go that fast hauling cattle, because as soon as you spook your cattle, your truck's going over. There's just no way. So, hauling cattle wasn't bad. It paid the bills in between when you couldn't get real good loads or anything.
I don't know if I'd haul cattle. They kind of stink.
Oh my God. I thought pigs were bad, chickens were worse. Chickens were horrible. But yeah, I mean, driving truck, I mean, if I could get, once the kids are left at home and they're in school and they're, out on their own, if I can get Searchy to get into a truck with me, I'd probably get back into a truck. But I wouldn't do it now. Not with the kids at home.
Yeah.
Well, you have a different situation though too, with the way things are working out for your house, with the kids gone, and you only have we only have 2 in the house now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so the one, she's off in college.
You make it sound like, you only have 2. Yeah, well, they're two teenagers.
Yeah, well, that's true too. That's true too. Moody teenagers.
Yeah, well, it's just me on the road though, so the wife's at home.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to, have the wife out on the road with you. You would have to say that would be a nice thing. That way you could be able to spend time with them, just you and her driving down the road. And that's how you get to really know your spouse, is driving down the road with them. Going on a road trip.
She goes out with me every year at Christmas time.
That's cool. My daughter, I had her in my truck when she was 6 months old. And I had her until she was 5 years old in my truck. And she could read a map. She could tell you the differences between kilometers and miles. She could tell you the difference between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. She could tell you the sizes of wrenches, because we'd get underneath my truck if I had to fix something, or she'd be right up underneath my truck with me. And I enjoyed every bit of it. And those are memories you'll never forget. I'll tell you that right now. Is having your kids in your truck with you. I had my 2 oldest boys in my truck during the summer. And you can't do it now, but you could back then. Well, you really couldn't, but nobody said anything. I put my kids in my lap, and I would let them sit there and try to shift and try to steer the truck going down the interstate, say like in Texas or in New Mexico where there's nothing out there. They'd be sitting there, and I'd be kind of holding on a little bit, and they'd be sitting there just driving. They'd pretend like they're trying to shift the truck, and I would put my hand on their hand and shift the truck with them and stuff. They enjoyed every bit of that. But you can't do stuff like that nowadays. It's considered child abuse or something. But yeah, those, taking the spouse out, I think that's probably one of the good things. It's like a bonding experience. More so than coming home after not seeing them for weeks at a time. I'd have to say I miss trucking to an extent, but I don't miss it enough just to hop in a truck again. I don't. And when I say truck driving, I mean the way I drove truck. And my rules and regulations I grew up with when it came to trucking. This new shit pissed me off too damn much. So, Murder. When it comes to driving, what is your best part when it comes to driving, in excess of just getting home and seeing the family? When it comes to driving, what's some of the stuff that you actually really enjoy when you're heading down the road?
Just seeing the different places.
That's fair enough. I mean, hell, I like going through the Northwest because of all the mountains, especially like Three Sisters, and when you get going through Idaho. What?
We don't want to know what you did with Three Sisters. That's personal business. But
but yeah, I mean, I enjoy seeing all that stuff. Like when I was out in Washington, just some of the back roads that you'd have to get to some of these places to pick up your loads and stuff like that. Like I went to a wine vineyard in Washington down near Umatilla. And before you go over the bridge in Umatilla, before you go over that bridge to get into Oregon, there's not a back road, but it's like a state road that goes both east and west. And you would head west on that road and go down probably about 15, 20 miles, and you'd hit a vineyard, and you'd get into their parking lot, and you'd have to make a a big U-turn and blindside back in because the way the walls were, you couldn't just back in. You had to blindside in. So there was a lot of getting out of your truck and looking and getting out of your truck and looking when you were parking, especially if there were other trucks there. And just seeing some of the mornings or even the sunsets with the mountains and stuff, yeah, it was worth it. Red Sands, New Mexico was another one. I liked Red Sands because when you were going through there, the actual little mesas you could see were all red in color when the sun was setting. You could see all the reds and everything on the ground. Oh yeah, it was beautiful stuff out there. But yeah, if anybody's got any questions about what we've talked about today, whether it's the truck driving, whether it's the bladeless fan, or Google and the EU, and Ed, when it comes to Dr. Pepper, man, it's really, if it's not coffee, it's Dr. Pepper for me, or water. Ed says that they don't have Dr. Pepper, at least the type I'm drinking right now, which is the off-brand for Walmart. They don't have that type of Dr. Pepper in Brazil. And then he says, my girlfriend makes cream coffee for me, and he loves it. Ooh, God, you're disgusting. Straight black coffee, man. No cream, no sugar, none of that crap. Straight black coffee. You don't drink coffee, do you, Chris?
Nope.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I had a coffee maker in my truck, okay? I had a coffee maker in my truck. I would be brewing coffee as I'm driving down the road.
I don't like coffee. I don't like the taste of it.
Yeah. It's not for everybody, though. It's like eating flan. It's not for everybody. Oh.
Welcome to Texas.
What? You gone the wrong way. Oh, you don't like beer? I'm not a beer drinker, and if I did drink any type of beer, it would be Guinness or it would be Heineken. And they used to make a red. Hello. I can hear you. I don't think you can hear me. Tequila's okay. I'm not a big tequila drinker, but I do buy. Well, I did. I don't drink a lot, but because I got bottles of liquor in my kitchen that I haven't touched in about a year. So that tells you how often I actually drink anything. And I mean, I've got rum and I've got vodka. I'm out of tequila, but I would take tequila, vodka, rum, and put it into a cup with ice. Pour it all over ice, and then pour in Dr. Pepper on top of it. And I drink 32-ounce cups at a time of this stuff. And I'd probably drink maybe 2 in a night. Woo! And I used to haul Jack Daniels and Maker's Mark is another type of bourbon, and I used to haul both of those, and that paid pretty decent. What I liked doing is when I would get to the Jack Daniels distillery is you can actually buy where they would take the barrels. Once the barrels are done, they're never going to use them again. They break them up and make wood chips out of them. because they're so soaked with the bourbon and stuff like that, or, you know, just the flavor would come out of that when you put it on the wood and you used it to smoke your meats and stuff. Get that hint, that little bit of a flavor. It's really, really good. I need to get another smoker. That's what I need to get. A nice big one. Hang up sides of beef in there. And when it's all done, just go out there and just carve you off a piece of beef. The good old days. But if nobody has any, questions or, statements or anything like that, if you want to get a hold of me or Chris, you guys can hit us up on our channels. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, hell, like I said, here. And if you're on YouTube, you guys can always put comments in the section below, and we will answer them best we can. Oh yeah, so we have forums. I haven't worked on the forums in a while. I really have to get back to that kind of stuff. I just haven't done any of it. But if that's it, and I'm sure Murder is out there somewhere driving over the road and losing signal. Nobody has anything else. We're going to go for now, and we will be back here for the CNG Show next week on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want, tell your friends, tell them to come in. If you guys find anything you like that's techie or anything of the sort, hit us up, let us know about it, and if we don't know anything about it, we'll just research it and we'll talk about it on the show with you, for you guys. And, just hit us up, let us know. And for all the new games that are coming out, I can't wait. So, yeah, Cruising the Nation for Chris and myself, Batapally, which is actually Grimstout, and as soon as I can get my name changed, I'm going to. But, yeah, we're out for now. I do appreciate everybody for stopping by. Ed, thank you very much for stopping by. Later tonight, if you want to run some maps, or I'm going to need help with my maps, trying to get them situated. I've been looking at different maps to see which ones I like. I need to go through a couple more to kind of really narrow in which maps I want to shape. But tonight, if you want to help, I'd appreciate it. If not, it's cool too. I'm out for now. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. And for Chris and myself, see you next week. Like I always say, friends don't let friends game alone. Peace.